It's impressive also. It's the piece.
So Aaron, Dominique,
mentioned.
Suzanne, and Jeff Wilson are all in one.
I did for like the first year on council. I like wore like local T-shirts, like just like advertising for business. But I feel like this is the best way to advertise for Sweeties. Is just give out bag. It's like, hey, you show up to a meeting. Here's baguette from Sweeties. Remember where it came?
Thank you for coming.
And then as soon as it was stand up, I had to drop that and put up the agenda.
Yeah.
It would be crazy to be like,
That's
I don't know, we use that as like
It's
a baseball bat to like someone like throw a second, just like see if you can catch it.
Think fast.
See if you can catch this really sharp knife. I guess this is everyone we have tonight again. All right.
Are you going to the firehouse,
We're ready to go.
fire camp?
What?
Fire camp tomorrow? You'll see the email.
I don't know. I gotta. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christy, could you take roll call, please?
Sure. Critelli,
Present.
Nacarado,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Fontana,
Here.
Pappenfort,
Present.
Mayor Shore.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay. And that brings us to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on that tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I move to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Martin. The motion is to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda. Further discussion?
Thank you for the grant policy.
Yeah.
Stevens, Critelli,
Yes.
Oh, you,
Yes, also.
okay. Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
motion passed.
great. And next up, we have citizen comment. And as she's bringing that up, just want everyone to know that this is an opportunity for the council to hear from our community. Public will be limited to 3 minutes each during citizen comments. There will be a clock showing up on the screen at the end of the 3 minutes. I will let whoever is speaking know if you're still going. The idea is we want to be fair to everybody, so I'm going to be strict on the 3 minutes. If anyone feels like they didn't have enough time to speak, please feel free to reach out to me after the meeting. I'm more than happy to spend time with you. The council may not respond to your comment this evening. Rather, they may take your comments and suggestions under advisement, and your questions will be directed to the appropriate department for follow-up. And if necessary, the city administrator will correct the public record. And tonight, we have Scott Hahn.
Hello, Council. My name is Scott Hahn, and I'm at 11545 County Road 251A. And once upon a time, I was an employee of the city, and it's about the turn of the century. It's been a while. And back then, I used to get together with Ed Tauber and Stan Provenza and different people, a lot of old timers, and we'd tell stories and laugh, and I'd hear how things were run at the city, et cetera, et cetera. But I wasn't around when they passed, and I'm so glad to hear that the city named the city hall after Ed. But Stan also was just absolutely, if you wanted to have a citizen who you wanted to emulate and have an award for, I thought Stan would have been a great name for it, but I wasn't around to do anything about that. I think both of them were part of the 10th Mountain Division. I mean, Stan was the treasurer, even though he was an accountant, he was the treasurer, and he and Ed would basically run everything. Anyway, now there's somebody else I want you to try to remember, because this person I think is more important than any businessman you ever had in town, any politician, et cetera. This person very smoothly and kindly solved so many problems at all different levels in the city when you're doing projects, et cetera, and that's Kevin Nelson. And if you know Kevin, you know what I'm talking about. And so I'm just here to remind you that if you are naming a park, you're naming a bridge, you're naming a road, Citizens Award or something, that's the guy that you should put a name on there, because his dad worked for the city, then Kevin worked for the city, and I think his son worked for the city. There's no bigger name of employee to the city than a Nelson. So I just wish you keep that in mind and have a good meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
All
Thanks.
right. Yeah.
Do we have anyone online?
We do. Mr. Elio?
Can you hear us? We cannot hear you yet.
Okay, I unmuted him.
I am unmuted, I hope, right now.
Okay, great. We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Can you see me, just for context, or can you just hear me?
Hear you only.
Oh, just hear you.
Okay, well, that's probably good enough. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, please feel free.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm Joe Elio. I'm an attorney. I represent Debbie Clark, who's the unfortunate owner of 614 Walnut Street. I approached you and presented way back in August. And just a refresher for you, Ms. Clark's neighbor at 610 Walnut Street is Kristen Edelman, and she's the reason I'm here, that property. As a reminder, Ms. Edelman's property for many years has been a hub for drug use, theft, likely drug manufacturing. The occupants were melting copper wires one time with using propane, and it exploded in the summer of 23. A fire broke out on that property, and it burned down Ms. Clark's trailer. And even though she was insured, it cost her $60,000. In the fall of 24, and we're appreciative of this, the city forcibly cleaned up that property. The cost to the city was $5,900, and the city spent $15,272 in attorney's fees, and your efforts are appreciated. A judgment was issued in that amount, and Ms. Edelman has not paid that judgment. And once again, the cycle is beginning to repeat. Ms. Edelman is back on the property. Trash is starting to accumulate. Tonight, it's going to be 8 degrees, I saw in Salida, and don't be surprised if there's a fire there tonight. She's in a location behind a structure, between that structure and the alley, and she's hard to see, but I can assure you she's back, and we're going to be right back to where we were. We've contacted Erica Romberg, the city attorney on this case, and about foreclosing on it, and she said that she needed city council authorization to initiate the foreclosure on the lien. And that's what I'm asking you and begging you to do. Authorize foreclosure of that property. It's going to solve many problems. First off, the city will get their money back, those monies that I just referenced, and Ms. Edelman will finally be off the property. My client can have some peace. The other neighbors can have some peace. And the crime will decrease. So please consider authorizing foreclosure of that property, and that property lien, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There's no one else online with their hand raised?
Very good. All right, then we will move on. And next up, we have a proclamation. Let's see. Declaring January 15th, 2025 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect nation. And whereas Dr. King's teaching can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 empower us all, and whereas the King Holiday and Service Act, enacted in 1994, designated the King holiday as a national day of volunteer service, and since then, millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of Dr. King to serve their neighbors and communities. And whereas serving others on the King holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, meet local and national needs, bring our citizens together, and strengthen our communities and nation. And whereas the King Day of Service is the only federal holiday commemorated as a national day of service and offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities on the holiday and make it an ongoing commitment service throughout the year. Now, therefore, the Salida City Council does hereby proclaim January 15th, 2025 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the city of Salida, and further encourages all Salidans to participate in a day of service in tribute to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you very much. And next up, we have a liquor license application hearing for Little Cambodia Restaurant, DBA Little Cambodia Restaurant at 720 East Highway 50. And this is a public hearing before the Salida City Council, sitting as the Salida Local Liquor Licensing Authority on an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license submitted by Pawnee Jones on behalf of Little Cambodia Restaurant for the premises with a street address of 720 East Highway 50 within the city of Salida. Before the hearing begins, I will outline the manner in which the hearing will be conducted in the order in which we will receive testimony. Although the authority is acting as a judge of this case, I note for the applicant and members of the public that strict rules of evidence do not apply. Any evidence that is relevant to the matter at hand may be considered by this authority. It is then up to each member of the authority to determine the credibility and weight of all such evidence as it relates to their decision. As chair, I may limit testimony or evidence determined to be irrelevant, repetitive, or cumulative. The order of the hearing will be as follows. Number one, this authority will accept the preliminary investigation reports and findings of the city clerk. Two, the applicant may present an opening statement, if any. Three, the applicant will present its request to the authority. Prior to excusing the applicant's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. A, authority members, and then B, any other party of interest. 4, the city may present evidence and witnesses, if any. Prior to excusing the city's witnesses, cross-examination shall be permitted in the following order. A, the applicant or its representative. B, authority members. And C, any other party in interest. Number 5, any party in interest may present evidence and testimony. Before excusing witnesses, cross-examination of interested parties and their witnesses shall be permitted in the following order. A, the applicant or its representative. B, authority members. 6, the applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence it wishes to. The city may then also provide rebuttal evidence, if any. 7, the applicant is then permitted to give a closing statement if he or she chooses. Throughout this process, the authority may ask questions. After all evidence and testimony has been received, I will close the public hearing. The authority will then begin its deliberations on this application. The authority will make a decision by motion and roll call vote. I now open the public hearing on an application for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Little Cambodia Restaurant at 720 East Highway 50, Salida, Colorado. I invite the city clerk to provide the authority with the city's preliminary investigation reports and findings. I'm really glad I got to shut my mouth now.
Thank you. Pawnee Jones submitted a new hotel restaurant liquor license application for Little Cambodia on November 18th. The notice of public hearing was posted in the paper on December 6th. The premises was posted on December 23rd. All fees have been remitted to the city and the state. Individual history records were submitted to CBI. There were no issues. Police and fire have done their inspection, no issues. She passed both inspections. This one's just a little bit different. There is a current license for the former Stoke restaurant, It expired in October, but it's still active until February. So the state said that they could either relinquish that license or transfer it. If they wanted to transfer, it would cost them about $1,800. So they did surrender that license, and so that Pawnee could move forward with this application. With that, staff is recommending that the authority approve the new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for the Little Cambodia Restaurant at 720 East Highway 50. And I could answer any questions.
Any questions?
I did notice that the applicant is not here in person.
Okay.
So,
Is she online?
no.
Okay, okay. Well, then the applicant, I guess, will not be making an opening statement tonight.
Mayor,
What?
Councilmember Fontana would like to speak.
Sure. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor,
Can you speak up a little?
Mr. Mayor and City Administrator and City Clerk, I would just like to make it known that I am going to recuse myself from the vote on this.
Great, thank you. Just for the audience, Councilmember Fontana will be recusing herself from this vote. Thank you. Okay, so the applicant is not here to present an opening statement. They're not here to present a request to the authority. Does the city have any evidence or witnesses they'd like? No?
We do not.
Okay. Do we have any party and interest that would like to present evidence and testimony? Okay, I don't see anyone here on that. And there's no need to cross-examine then. Once again, then we get to number 6, applicant may present any rebuttal evidence. They're not here. And they obviously would be welcome to give a closing statement if they choose not here once again. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and that will take us to council deliberations. Who'd like to begin?
It looks good to me. I'm very excited about it. The only question I have is irrelevant. It's like, is the Stoke sign ever gonna come down?
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be outside of the liquor
License
license.
authority.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that would be a really big Little Cambodia sign, though.
But there is one on the building itself.
Right, right.
So you can tell what's going
Yeah,
on.
Yeah.
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 Well, I don't see any reason
Yeah, I don't
not
see any
to.
either. Anyone online care to weigh in?
Not that we could see.
Okay, very good. All right, and none of the council, all right. I would gladly entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for Little Cambodia LLC.
Second.
Oh, okay.
It's a tie.
Yeah, Catelli. So we have a motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Catelli. The motion is to approve a new hotel and restaurant liquor license request for Little Cambodia LLC. Further discussion.
Martin,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Fratelli,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, and that brings us to unfinished business. In ordinance 2024-21, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, adopting by reference the 2024 edition of the Model Traffic Code, providing penalties for the violations thereof, and making conforming amendments to the City of Salida Municipal Code, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing penalties for violation thereof. This is a second reading and a public hearing. I will hereby open the public hearing and turn it over to Chief Johnson to summarize his report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a real quick summary. We're adopting the latest version of the Model Traffic Code, just has some updated language for different violations. It also includes some new updates to like low-powered scooters and things of that nature. Moving into one of the changes, Section 1203 will not read as it does in the Model Traffic Code. We are amending it to keep it parking. That's what we currently have and we've had for years past. That allows us to not have to redo all of our software and update that. It's related to ski stuff and we do not have a ski resort in Salida, so that makes it an easy change. We are also adding a 3-hour parking downtown and removing the 2-hour parking. And finally, we're adding 48 hours of snow removal time between the hours of 4 a.m. and 11 a.m. So anytime we get snow within 48 hours during that time period, no parking in the 3-hour zones, so Public Works can remove snow. Any questions?
So does this mean we're not going to put a ski lift up to the top of Tenderfoot?
I mean, we always could. We can always amend it.
That would be the easiest part of it.
Any questions for Chief on this?
No, it looked perfect.
Very good, thank you. No applicant here on this. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it.
No, okay, no one signed up for public comment, no one online as well? Okay. No need for rebuttal. I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, and that will bring us to preliminary council discussion. Who would like to begin?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I would offer a motion.
Great.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-21, adopting the 2024 Colorado Model Traffic Code.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Pappleport, seconded by Councilmember Martin. The motion is to approve ordinance 2024-21, adopting the 2024 Colorado Model Traffic Code. Further discussion?
Critelli,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
motion passed.
And I had a sense about what was coming next when I saw Carolyn move up to the front. It's ordinance 2024-22, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, approving the Angel View Major Impact Review for a planned development overlay and major subdivision. This is also a second reading and public hearing. I will go ahead and open the hearing, and I'll turn it over to Carolyn for her report. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this is the second reading and public hearing for ordinance 2024-22 for the Angel View Neighborhood Plan Development and Major Subdivision. And I know you saw this presentation in the first reading, so I'm going to go through it again, but just briefly summarize the points. The applicant is Walt Harder of Harder Deason Holdings. They are requesting the major impact review for the plan development overlay and major subdivision for what was lots 4 and 5 of the Angel View minor subdivision. This is a concurrent review of the plan development and the major sub side. The proposal is for 42 residential lots comprised of 19 single-family, 18 duplex, 2 townhome, and 3 multiple-family lots, plus a park and 5 HOA-maintained community open space lots, which include pedestrian walkways, and 3 outlets, which include stormwater detention areas. A total of 115 units are proposed. The proposal also includes a 0.72 acre park dedication, plus an additional 0.3 acre credit for public access easements adjacent to the park, and credit for portions of the shared use paths, for a total of just over 1 acre. Shepherd Road will be realigned and replatted, dedicated to the city, as well as Tenderfoot Road. Both of those roads will include 8-foot shared use paths on one side. And the park dedication in this case would have been a 2.3 acre requirement for the 115 units, but the lesser amount is acceptable due to the dedication anticipated of parkland adjacent on the Salida Quality Farms annexation, and also the provision of other community open space amenities and pedestrian connections that will be maintained by the HOA. And there is also a fee in lieu component to this park dedication and open space. This is the PD plan, and basically the maroon buildings are the multifamily apartments, the orange are duplexes and townhomes, and the light sort of tan are the single family. Next slide. Both the major subdivision and the plan development overlay were unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. And next slide. The plan development is an overlay which allows flexibility for the underlying zoning district standards. The plan complies with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. On the next slide, it is within the municipal services area. It provides a mixture of housing types and has satisfied the inclusionary housing requirement, which was a credit included in Ordinance 2020-01. The deviations requested include minimum lot size and maximum lot coverage, minimum landscape area, and setbacks. The maximum number of units for the density would have been 246, but the proposal, again, is 115. Next slide. A couple of other deviations are just exceptions for lots 18 and 19 frontages, and the facade repetition requirement for the multi-family buildings has been exempted. And this shows those two lots that will have access off an access easement instead of direct street frontage. And then those are illustrations of the buildings. Go on. And then the combination of paths and walkways will provide connectivity to adjacent neighborhoods as well as the city's overall multi-use trail network. Next slide. This illustrates the context of the development within the city's trail network, which is a very important connection in that part of town. And the green arrows here show the location of the 8-foot shared use paths and the pedestrian connections of the HOA lots that are scattered throughout the development as well as connecting to the park. And the next slide, the HOA will maintain the interior walkways and the outlots. Public street and infrastructure will be dedicated to the city, and a subdivision improvement agreement will be brought to council for approval. Next slide. Again, the units are 115 total based on a 2,100 square foot per unit density that was approved with the previous resolution. The 3D illustration on the next slide shows a variety of the housing types. Generally speaking, the gray roofs are the multifamily buildings and townhomes, and the darker roofs are the single family and duplexes. And I believe the applicant will do some 3D images to show more illustration of the architecture. The proposal meets all other criteria of the design standards of the municipal code, and civil drawings have been preliminarily approved by Public Works and will be finalized with the SIA. Next slide. The traffic study submitted by the applicant has been approved by Public Works, and if needed, the applicant could elaborate further on traffic impacts as to what percentage of an increase this development would cause on Airport Road and Poncha Boulevard. Those were comments made during the Planning Commission hearings. Next slide. The illustration here shows what the typical single-family developed lot would look like, including an ADU. So you can see the coverage there with the 12-foot setback. This would be a corner lot with the ADU with an alley-loaded garage. Next slide. Other planned development criteria listed have also been fulfilled for meeting new energy codes and the fact that the system development fees and school fees and park fees in lieu will help mitigate impacts. The proposal includes a higher level of amenities and pedestrian access. The requested deviations allow for more compact development and are compatible with the city's goals to increase density and affordability within the city limits. The proposed housing types fit the intent of the R3 zone and are similar to other R3 developments within the city. Next slide. There are two main phases proposed, but with the SAA, we will break that down into more construction phasing just to make sure that issues such as erosion control and dust and other types of mitigation are handled properly. There were some complaints about that with the construction of the apartments in Phase 1. So we want to work with the developer closely and make sure that that's all contained and handled so there are no nuisances to the adjacent neighborhoods. The park and open space requirement is, as I mentioned, proposed to be satisfied with the dedication and construction of a roughly 1 acre park area. Next slide. And this concept plan includes an accessible play structure with safety surfacing, 2 benches, a picnic pavilion, open turf grass area, and connecting pathways, and they will all meet ADA. With the estimated cost of construction being deducted, it is estimated that a balance of approximately $75,000 from the required fee in lieu would be available for future park improvements elsewhere in the city. And that will be spelled out in the SIA and subject to an engineer's cost estimate. But the preliminary estimate we have is just under the $322,000 fee in lieu amount. So we'll see how, it depends on what Director Diesel wants. So, there are no other civic structures proposed. Additional private open space areas will be maintained by the HOA. And the street trees and everything are shown there. So there's, even though it's a very dense development, there will be quite a bit of greenery realized with the tree lawn extensions and landscaping. The major subdivision review standards are similar to plan development criteria just described, so I'm not going to go into that in a lot more detail. I did mention last time I would love for the development to work with their HOA and put something in the CCRs about landscaping, perhaps pollinator-friendly plantings and restricting on use of chemical pesticides and fertilizer, because as we get more and more dense, it's really important to maintain what little green space we have for the habitat of our bugs and butterflies. So, other elements in the plat are acceptable. And the architectural elements have been described in the PD plan and are included as part of the recommended conditions and are stated on the PD plan. Again, this is an illustration of the housing types. And as previously mentioned, the inclusionary housing requirements have been satisfied with the credit. Next slide. All the comments from reviewing agencies have been addressed. I do want to mention with regard to the alley access that has been brought up in public comment, and I did receive some calls, and people actually came into the office today with concerns. The applicant's engineer has indicated that the access easement, and we're talking about parallel to tenderfoot, so between the condominiums, which are already constructed, and this development, is not an exclusive easement, it's an access easement, and therefore serves both the condominiums and the subdivision. If there is any need for additional documentation, we can add a notation on the subdivision plat prior to recording. And the city attorney was in congruence with that interpretation. So Shepherd Road, which was previously dedicated to the city with Angelview Minor subdivision, is being realigned slightly and replatted with the major sub. Other than that, schools and utilities and the county are satisfied with the development proposal. So as you might have realized, the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting were in your packet. At that time, there were some notes and things that were missing from the plat, so there were more conditions at that time, but the majority, pretty much all of those notes required have been added to the plat and corrected on the documents. So the only 2 conditions we have in the ordinance have to do with the public park dedication and construction and the requirement for the SIA. And there's notations about streetscape diversity that are included as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions and.
Question, I know obviously Carolyn covered a lot just then, but any questions that anyone here or online on council has for her?
I just have a thank you for spelling development right. I really appreciate it.
Yes, we made sure we got that right. Instead of Angleview.
Anything from anyone online on this?
There is, Ms. Walker.
Well, no, we're not,
No,
we're
okay.
still,
Okay,
yeah.
well, yes,
We'll
there are
open that
people-
up for public
Yep.
comment.
Yep.
Okay, but we don't have anyone of the council members. Okay, very good. All right. thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor?
What?
Aaron?
Oh, this is
Aaron?
Aaron.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming in and being so thorough with everything that you do for these subdivisions. And you answered a lot of my questions on, because I've been getting some emails about some of the complaints or concerns about the existing residents there. And it sounds like you guys have talked to everybody and kept communication well open and kind of figured that stuff out before coming to council. So thank you for reaching out and taking care of those existing residents there. And just thank you for your thorough and everything that you do. Your makes everything really easy on us. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Councilmember Stevens. I just had one question or comment. In reading some of the concerns that were raised by residents, they brought up the issue of dust mitigation. My understanding from a previous situation is that's not something regulated at either the city or county level, but rather that's a state. Is that correct?
Well, it actually is addressed in our code. Public Works, when there are public improvements being constructed, there are erosion control and grading standards, and the goal of protecting the city's infrastructure and stormwater. So mud, it turns into dust, but they're related. So we will be more diligent with requiring the tracking surfaces and things to be applied, and any other things that we feel need to go into the SIA, we can add, but I know it's really tough. I was an erosion control inspection enforcement agent, was my first job out of college, so they used to call me the dirt police. Anyway, so I know it's very difficult. It's not an exact science. The weather can change things, but as people mentioned, the residents of the condominiums, especially people that were there early, have lived through dust and dust and dust and construction.
I hear the wind blows occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally. So we will really try to harp on that as best as we can to keep that
Thank you.
under control.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Dirt Police.
Yeah.
We'll get you a new business card.
Yeah, there you go.
I do have a question. It's kind of raised by the concerns that we received from the citizens who already live over there regarding the park and the open space and everything like that. So I am happy to see there is a plan for the park and the open space that they're dedicating. I am curious if it's also going to be held to the standard specifications that Diesel presented to us last night. This is probably going to be the first park that we're going to see get approved, like after this code that he built out, and I just want to make sure that we are holding Mr. Harder to these
Yep,
standards.
those standards will be basically an attachment to the SIA.
Okay.
And that'll all be rolled in. One thing that I believe we sort of made an upfront handshake agreement with was that the park might not be completed until, I think, like the 38th unit or something, like roughly 25% of the units, because it doesn't really make sense to build the park and have all kinds of construction going around, right around it. So we want to have some stability there and have it completed in a timely fashion, but when it makes sense with the development of the new subdivision. And yes, definitely those standards will be part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nacarado has a question.
Yes, Councilmember Nacarado.
Thank you. Carolyn, another concern brought up through emails to us had to do with the parking. And I know that you already showed the the parking spots, but could you just review that one more time and talk about the planning for parking within the code?
Right, so the basic requirement is 1 space per unit. So when you have a single-family unit and then they're putting an ADU in the back, which would be another unit, there has to be a minimum of 2 spaces. Most of the plan, and Ronnie can go into this in a little more detail, shows the garage, alley-loaded garages, and aside, in addition to that, those might just be on the duplexes, I'm not sure. But in addition to that, there's the street parking along all of the streets. And the multifamily will all have their own parking at the code required amount. In this town, you know, people have 20 different recreational items, so we can't really require parking for that. People find ways to put the, you know, to store them and put them in places where it's accessible to them, but the development is meeting, there hasn't been any reduction in parking or anything. They're meeting the standards for parking. And part of the reason we sort of took out those extra crossings, those bulb outs, was because that would have reduced some of the street parking. So we just kept the 2 instead of the 4, whatever, mid-block crossings.
Any other questions before we give the applicant their opportunity to come up and speak if they so choose? Okay, thank you. And the floor is yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name's Ronnie Pelucio. I'm with Polona Architects and Urbanists. We're the land planners and architects on the project. And we're working on this project in collaboration with the Crabtree Group and Mountain Aspect, who is a local group that does our landscape design for the project. I know I have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna rush through a lot of content. But I do want to take a moment and really thank Carolyn. I think she has done an exceptional job bringing organization to the process, as well as describing our project entirely. So it kind of makes my job a little easier, but part of that compliment would be also the transparency and consistency I think that she has brought to some of the negotiations. So I'm appreciative of Carolyn's role as she is a new member in your community in this position. I thought you should know, as part of an applicant team, I think it's been very successful. That being said, I'd also like to thank Diesel and Christy, who have been integral parts to some of the collaborative efforts for the entitlement of this, including discussions about open space and creating meaningful open space. And I'm gonna kind of quickly go through some slides that provide visuals to some of the things that Carolyn has already talked about, which we can come back to if you have questions on. But I would like to spend like the last 5 minutes of my presentation showing you the 3D model, which I think is maybe a new content in terms of a visualization of what it might look like in the 3 dimension. As you know, there is an affordable housing piece and a density piece to this project, which I think Carolyn has done a great job explaining. But just to recap, the affordable housing component has been satisfied through ordinance and agreements with Confluent Park Development. Density is, there is no density request for additional density on this project. As previously described through the allowance of a 2,100 square foot per dwelling unit math that would result in up to 246 units on this lot. We are proposing 115, so we are not maxing out the density. What I would like to say is that the image on the left is not our project. The image on the right is our project. It's helpful, I think, to look at comparative images of what developments might look like that are compliant with this zone district. And the most purposeful thing here is that the applicant team did have an opportunity to build an apartment housing project on this property, which we think is of less value to your community and less conformance with some of your broader objectives of bringing a diversity of housing types, as well as following traditional neighborhood planning patterns. And so the image on the right, we think, you know, as our application better demonstrates those principles, in that there's an alley-loaded community with homes that have front porches that face public right-of-way or common outdoor spaces. It allows for those types of interactions that you get in your downtown where people can enter through their front door, have a front porch and have a meaningful conversation with somebody on the sidewalk, as opposed to the image on the left, which often comes with aspects of isolation, fragmented open spaces, and an outdoor space that in general is predominantly parking. And so we're pleased to present an application that we think is in greater compliance with the city's broader goals, and we're proud of it for those reasons. And so we are proposing a compact, walkable, diverse neighborhood that is pedestrian-oriented. And, you know, the colors that you see here, as Carolyn mentioned, reflect the different types of buildings that are proposed on the project. But within that, this chart in the lower right describes some of the unique aspects of each of the units that are also being designed within each of those building types, which we have been working on with the development team and already are in the process of putting building permit applications together for. So the images that you see of many of the buildings are the actual buildings that we're hoping your building department starts reviewing as soon as we get approval. And so there's a stratification in the unit types, and then in addition to that, there is a gradation of different types of amenities that occur within each of those different building products. And so it will make an environment that allows for people with different income levels, housing needs, and family makeups to be able to live within proximity of one another, as opposed to a more isolated and monoculture type neighborhood. In addition to that, we're providing diversity through different ownership and rental opportunities on the property. And so you see here, there's 3 different colors. One is for sale, which is the pink, and then the for rent that comes with the apartments. And then this really interesting in between, which is how an ADU might satisfy a for rent product that might happen for an individual, as you would know, that owns their accessory dwelling unit on their private property. And so there's diversity in the ownership and rental component within the neighborhood that we're also proud to provide. There's a diversity of open space, and it is, there's a network of open space. So you can access these open spaces within the community, as well as take the multi-use paths in and out of town. You know, take the mid-block connections that you can see in yellow to the north, to go to the neighborhood to the north or the neighborhood south. People have asked questions about whether or not the park on the left-hand side of this image, which is the city park, would be open to the neighbors to the north. It's open to the entire public. And so is the network of trails within the neighborhood. So it's meant to be permeable for all residents and usable by the greater community. And this graphic really is meant to demonstrate the most public outdoor spaces on the left to the more private outdoor spaces on the right, and really the types of things that might happen in these different spaces across the community, and that it really is kind of an ecosystem of outdoor spaces that work well together. This graphic I want to come back to if you have questions about what is the mechanism, like how do you make a community, as we're about to show you in the 3D model, work, and why are there requests that are the PD standards that are modification requests to the current zoning. And I can talk about them. Essentially, there are 5. But what I'd like to do is show you the 3D model. Christy, could you pop that up? All right, we made a 3D model. So here it is. This is what it looks like from above. So you've seen this more or less as the site plan, but I just want to point out, you know, there are multiple points of entrance to the project. So there are 2 streets that provide access along County Road 120, and then there's a street to the north and a future access to the west, so future development to the west. And then there's also Desi Drive on the right-hand side of this property, which works much more like a secondary street, and it behaves more like an alley because the major connections occur through the paved areas that I described earlier. The entrance to the east, bless you, is flanked by forms of open space. They are not credited towards our open space, but we believe they create a pleasant entrance to the neighborhood. They will help perform conform some of the detention requirements to the community. And the homes on the right-hand side, you can see face onto that open space that is in that triangular area. That is one of the requests that is a modification, that homes wouldn't have direct frontage onto a street, but that they could face onto a form of open space. And so that was what that might look like in 3D. And as you kind of flip around this project, you can see that this is an alley-loaded community. The garages are at the back of the neighborhood, or at the back of the lots. There are mid-block connections. This is what they look like. They happen between some of the buildings. They connect to existing mid-block connections, so it really creates a network that it extends a network that exists. You can see how there are parking opportunities for every home in the form of garages or 2 stalls at the back, and in many cases, there's an opportunity for an additional stall. And where there are accessory dwelling units, it's likely that we will provide that extra stall, as it will likely be needed for, the resident or the user. In the middle of the plan, you can see there's an outdoor space, and that is surrounded by the apartment buildings that are central to the plan. So the building type and unit types that have the least amount of private outdoor space are adjacent to the largest outdoor space. So they have access to it, and the bigger buildings help define that as an outdoor room. Additionally, in the foreground, you'll see the townhomes that we're proposing across the street also help kind of anchor that space, and they face onto what is that outdoor space in the middle of the neighborhood. On the west side of the property, which is at the bottom of the screen is the largest park. And you've heard a little bit about that and the potential future expansion of that park and a neighborhood development that's probably forthcoming with recent annexation. And we've talked about how the program that is being designed within the park will allow for kind of the natural flow and use of future improvements on the neighboring property. So we're coordinating that thoughtfully with Diesel and Carolyn. On the south side of that park are, again, apartment buildings for the same reasons that I mentioned before. The parking areas associated with the apartment buildings are concealed at the backs of the apartments. And so they are not the thing that's up front and center, and that's intentional in the sense that we're trying to make this a neighborhood of people and not of cars. And so we want homes to have front porches and front doors, and that also applies to the apartment buildings, and that's comprehensively shown throughout this. And the buildings that you're seeing here that are all duplexes, we are planning on getting permitted. Construction documents are created, so these are real buildings. This is the entrance on the west side of the property, and you can see that there's a diversity of building shape and form. And we think that it helps it does represent some of the eclectic nature of some of the buildings that you see in Salida, while it relies more heavily on traditional pitched roof forms of traditional neighborhoods that you have in your downtown. And I could keep going, but I think I've satisfied my 10 minutes here. I've probably gone over. There's more to this model if you'd like me to show you. So thank you for hearing our application.
Thanks. Do we have any questions while you're still up here?
You said that you are likely to provide parking for ADUs.
Yeah, as I understand, it's not actually a requirement in your code, but what we have done is we have designed lots that have enough width at the rear of the lot. When the option is chosen by the development team or the buyer to put an ADU in, there's an available parking stall area that qualifies as extra parking on the lot. And so our intention as a development team would be to put that in when an ADU is built on the lots that they're developing.
Anyone on any of our council members online that have questions?
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Okay, thank you.
I'm curious about the detention areas, because someone said it was rock, but you're showing it as a green space. Is it gonna be grass, or what's it gonna be?
We're working on the actual character of it, but our goal is to make it more pleasant than just a hole surrounded by rocks. And so we're attempting to grade the detention ponds so that they don't have all rigid edges on all sides. And there will be landscaping around the perimeter of that. And as you know, detention ponds aren't always filled. And so our goal is to create more of like a landscaped edge to the areas that don't hold water and only hold water seasonally.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Not on the paper. We do have people with hands raised for public
Okay.
comment.
Great. And,
Okay,
yeah,
ready?
Yeah.
Ms. Walker,
can you hear us?
She's self-muted.
I think you're self-muted. Maybe we can come back, see if we can figure that out and move on to the next person.
there's no one else with their hand raised.
No one else with a hand raised. Ms. Walker, can you? It's still showing them as self-muted?
Well, now I think she's having problems. Okay, now she is just self-muted.
I believe that's who the letter came from, so you can,
Yeah,
the letter.
yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe she could type it in and then have it read out loud as an option.
Yeah, if you want to put something into the chat, please feel free, but we cannot hear you. Okay, well, very good, I guess and no one else has signed up okay. All right, let's see, no rebuttal at this point. Does council have questions of any party or person who's offered comment, which has just been the applicant and staff? I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, which will take us to preliminary council discussion. Who'd like to begin?
I'll jump in. You know, I've got a couple of piddly corrections that I'll go over with Christie. But this one, under details of request, A, major impact review, says, and design concepts then may not be possible. That seems to me that should be may be possible. Do you want to look at what I'm talking about? Yeah, I'm bothered by the splits too, that I'm sure they should be splits. But the not, I think, is relevant.
Well, what it means is it allows.
Can you go
Mike,
back to the microphone?
The mic, are you in, is that one turned on?
I'll go over here.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure you have a live mic.
I know it sounds weird, but what it's saying is the flexibility allows things that may not normally be possible under the strict application of the code. So that's,
So it is correct.
Yeah, it
That's
is
a little bit tricky to read.
And we have an entire language created by attorneys, which
Yeah.
is
excerpts.
at best indecipherable at times.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion, comments?
Yeah, as far as density concerns, certainly, even without the change with resolution 2020-30, it's still hovering around 100 less units than what they could be getting.
Right.
Whether it's, the 2,100 square feet versus the 2,400. So there's that. Also, this is, kind of units owed to a project that, of affordability that was built previous. So there's that also. I do wish I could have heard the citizen concerns, but I think we addressed as many as we could from the email. I see no real reason not to approve this.
And just for the public, because it was a long time ago, but in 2020, we worked with the developers over in Confluent Park on the east side of town, and it provided us with 48 low-income tax credit projects at below 60% of area median income. And in return, we transferred credits over to these other projects. So just so people understand, we did get a lot of affordable housing through this arrangement.
Was that Michelle?
No.
That's it?
I heard voices like coming out of a computer. I wondered if it was Michelle.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I want to thank Carolyn for addressing a lot of the concerns that was brought up and also having folks come in to your office today and talking with them. And I also just want to point out, I know one of the concerns was that, the plan development before is different than what they see now. And I just want to bring up the fact that since 2018 to 2025, we are just a much different community with different needs, which means higher density and more housing. I know that is a concern, but it is what this community needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Ms. Walker did type her comments in to the
Okay.
chat, if I could read them.
Yeah, sure.
Do
Sure.
we need to open public comment?
She wrote, "You are allowing the new development to use the alley. Will the city maintain this alley? The alley is now 20 feet wide and it must remain 20 feet wide. Building homes on 2.5 feet of the alley is stealing property from Angelville condominiums." Those were her comments.
Can you read that one more time? Sorry.
You are allowing the new development to use the alley. Will the city maintain this alley? The alley is now 20 feet wide and it must remain 20 feet. Building homes on 2.5 feet of the alley is stealing property from Angelview condominiums.
Would you like an explanation?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
At the eastern end of the development, there is one small section of the easement that is 20 feet wide, behind a couple, I don't know if it was phase one or whatever, of the condos. That will remain. The rest is, the existing easement is 12.5 feet. An additional 5 feet is being added in the subdivision. Those are both access easements that together are 17.5 feet that the fire department has approved as adequate for access. They are private easements, so they're not built to like a public roadway standard or any type of public improvement standard. The civils, though, do show a cross-section in the alley, which includes a 6-foot wide gutter pan in the middle and compacted gravel on each side. I know right now the residents have mentioned it's all rutted up. There's Lake Angelview somewhere in the alley. So that will be improved with the construction of the development. I don't know how the maintenance is being addressed by the HOAs, but that will have to be covered in the CCNRs. And one or both of the HOAs will be responsible for that maintenance. And that would be worked out in the CCNRs with the developer.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Do we have any of the council members online have?
I don't see anyone with a hand
Okay.
raised.
Very good. All right. Any other discussion, or if not, I would accept a motion.
Okay, I found it.
Is there another?
I move to
Okay,
approve ordinance 2024-21. No,
22.
I'm on the wrong page.
Right up there.
If you're ready, go for it, Wes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to
Carolyn had
approve ordinance 2024-22 on second reading.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Critelli, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to approve ordinance 2024-22 on second reading. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Peppenfort,
Yes.
Fontana, Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Fontana, motion passed.
Okay, very good. Thank
Maybe
you.
she's having internet issues.
It could be, could be. Thank you. Okay, and then we're moving on to new business, and it's council appointment of an ex officio member to the pros board.
Oh, I have
Are
nothing
you the
for it.
staff liaison for the pros?
I thought it was the rec council, sorry.
No prost for you.
Yeah, jeez. So pretty straightforward. We had vacancies on the pros board, conducted interviews. Councilman Stevens and Councilwoman Fontana participated in those interviews. We had a selection of staff, current pros board members and council go through the interview process, and after that process, they've recommended these.
No. The council is going to appoint one of themselves as an ex officio member of the pros board.
I've totally missed this. I do not know. Completely. Of the pros board or of the rec?
The pros board. So,
Okay.
a month ago or so.
That was about a month ago. I was like, I thought we already did this.
Ago, one of the outgoing members of Prost came in and spoke with you,
Yes.
gave 3-minute comments,
Yep.
appreciating her time on Prost and
Right.
suggesting that perhaps the council would like to attend the meetings as an ex officio member. At council reports, the council agreed that that sounded like a great idea. So here we are. So
You
that
might
the
have been on your
council-
anniversary date.
So that
Yeah.
the council someone can raise their hand on council and say, I would like to attend the pros meetings.
Ditto.
I apologize for making you walk up to the podium for that.
Yeah.
No, let us know when.
Yeah,
Let us know when the post board
It was a
meetings
great process. They recommend that you, no.
That is because this has happened to me many times in my life, that is a lovely shade of umber.
Thank you. Not unaware of what is going on right now. But yeah, I'll stand here until you raise your hand, and then I'll go sit down again.
Tell us more about.
And that would include the 3 people on, yeah.
Yes.
They can raise their
You do not have to be present to win. You can also be
Wait,
online.
these are when are pros board meetings?
Councilmember Stevens would like to throw his hat in on this one.
Okay.
He doesn't even know when they are.
They are the 4th Tuesdays of the month, and they alternate between,
But he's trying to speak.
go ahead, Councilman Stevens.
I don't know when they are.
I'd like to volunteer for this position to show up
Appreciate
for
that,
the
thank you.
Prost meetings.
That'd be great. Yeah, they're the 4th Tuesday of the month. They alternate between 8:30 and 6 o'clock at night.
I would have totally done it if it was a 6th Tuesday of the month.
Touche.
All right, it sounds like Councilmember Stevens
Yeah.
is gonna,
Yeah,
all right.
Great.
so I think we would just need a
Is
motion.
a motion?
I don't even know a motion sounds good.
Yeah, let's just do a motion.
Thanks,
Do a
Diesel.
motion.
Thank you, Councilman.
I move to approve Councilmember Stevens to be our ex officio member of the Prost Board.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. And the motion is to appoint Councilmember Stevens as the ex officio member of the Pros Board. Further discussion?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana. Motion passed.
I
Okay,
apologize for my confusion.
Sorry.
it's okay.
Sorry.
Love
You added a much needed moment of levity to the proceedings.
Ad-libbing. Great ad-libbing.
Talk until somebody stops you.
Now, I just want to see if our esteemed finance director can take the same approach on this next one on the,
I'll take this
What?
one.
yours?
It will be very quick.
Okay,
Our municipal code requires that we appoint 2 council members at the first meeting each year to the finance committee. And this is the first meeting of 2025. So we currently have council members Pappenfort and Fontana on finance committee. And we're looking for either the same volunteers or two fresh ones.
And both of us are prepared to continue to serve.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
I am interested, but I think at a later time would be fine, because I think it's on Mondays right now, right, the meetings?
It is currently on the third Monday at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Working, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Me too.
Which job?
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right, so once again, we'll just need another motion. It sounds like we're okay with the reappointment. So who would like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint council members Pappenfort and Fontana to the Finance Committee.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Ciccelli, seconded by Councilmember Martin, and the motion is to reappoint council members Pappenfort and Fontana to the Finance Committee. Further discussion?
Martin?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Critelli?
Yes.
Nacarado?
Yes.
Fontana? Peppenfort?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and then moving on to Resolution 2025-01, designating the place for the posting of public notices for city council meetings and other city business.
Sorry. So state statute requires that the city designate a posting place for public notices and that it's done annually. And currently, our public posting place is our website, with the caveat that if the website's down, internet's down, something like that, we do have posting boards, one right outside here and then one outside the finance office in City Hall that would post the public notices there. But that, staff is recommending approval of Resolution 2025-01, and I'll answer any questions if you have them.
I do.
Yes.
So if City Hall is closed, they'll be able to access that one. But
yeah.
the one over here is in the foyer and that door is locked.
Yes.
So there's always one that's outside.
Yes, yes,
If the website's down.
yeah. And we have had problems with the website lately, but
We've had problems with the internet. So,
But
yeah.
yes, there is one outside and then one by City Hall.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2025-01, designating the place for the posting of public notices for city council meetings and other city business.
Second.
So we have motion.
That's one of the year.
Motion, motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Ciccelli, and the motion is to approve Resolution 2025-01, designating the place for the posting of public notices for city council meetings and other city business. Further discussion?
Critelli?
Yes.
Fontana? Peppenfort?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Nacarado?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And next up is Resolution 2025-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, electing to become part of the Colorado Retirement Association, providing access to their 401A money purchase plan and 457B deferred comp plan. Thanks.
The city is asking that you switch management of the employee retirement funds to Colorado Retirement Association. They come highly recommended by other municipalities. They will continue to manage the funds, but at a lower fee that is charged to the employees, by the way, for managing their funds, and no cost to the city, and actually provide more outreach to employees, a higher level of service, and more administrative support to us as the employer as well. So we just need you to pass this resolution and we can get that process going. It'll be a several-month process to switch the accounts over. During such time, there will not be any interruption to earnings that the employees make in their accounts.
And I would just say that The only thing you can really control from an investment point of view is how much you pay.
Yeah.
And lower fees translate to higher returns. So
Right.
I fully support this.
Right.
And Amy, my impression from the finance meeting was that you could get some advice from them, whereas that wasn't really available before.
Exactly, yeah.
That could be an awesome benefit to people who are just stepping into saving for retirement.
I think their level of service is going to be much higher that they provide.
Yeah, it looks like a good deal all the way around.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that the cost of switching is going to be covered. 'cause
Yes,
that's-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
That's
no
great.
cost whatsoever to
Yeah.
the city, so.
It's a win-win.
Only with emotion.
To approve Resolution 2025-02, authorizing the city to become part of the Colorado Retirement Association.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Martin. The motion is to approve Resolution 2025-02, authorizing the city to become part of the Colorado Retirement Association. Further discussion?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
No, I want one for
myself,
too.
Stevens, Stevens,
What was that? Yes?
Fontana,
There's a reason I'm going to always be.
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, great. And
Employees,
then-
thank you.
Thank you. And then ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending section 2-18-30 of the Salida Municipal Code regarding membership on the Sustainability Committee. This is a first reading and setting a second reading and public hearing for January 21st, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In November of 2023, the council established the Sustainability Committee in the municipal code. And within that code, it specified that one member of the committee shall be a youth representative. And within the code, we defined youth as a person between 14 and 18 years of age. Subsequent to that passing, we've had some difficulty finding a youth within that age group who is interested in serving on the Sustainability Committee. We do have a youth member of the community who is younger than 14 who's interested. So we would like to amend the code, remove the age requirement from that. They still have to have permission from their legal guardians within that, but this is a relatively simple change to the code.
I have a question. G, it refers to Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. We use Bob's rules. Why is that Robert's Rules?
Where are you looking?
Under G, Section 2.
Oh.
Oh, I apologize. We can change that. That's the way the code was written in 23. I'm not sure
Well,
if it
just
was
check
just
into
a.
it. Because
Sure.
I know PT said, we're doing Bob's, and that's why we changed cancel to Bob's.
Okay.
And so that might be better for a committee to use. So just check into that.
Sure. And I can make that change prior to the next reading.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. I much prefer Bob's to Roberts.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I think that's great news that we can get somebody even younger to attend these meetings that so affect our future.
I'm guessing too, there's a form that a guardian would sign giving the young person permission. Does that already exist?
I don't believe we have a form.
So it would get created
Okay.
while we're checking into Bob's rules. Perfect.
But Bob's of age, so he doesn't need.
Yeah, he doesn't need the guardian signature.
I'll second that, Christy, if you need that. But,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
A permission slip, something, get them out of school or whatever,
Truancy form.
Right.
So do we need to amend the motion, or can we just?
No, we don't need to amend it.
Okay. I move to approve ordinance 2025-1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending section 2-1830 of the Salida Municipal Code regarding membership on the Sustainability Committee on first reading and schedule a public hearing for January 21, 2025.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Martin. And the motion is to approve ordinance 2025-1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending section 2-18-30 of the Salida Municipal Code regarding membership on the Sustainability Committee on first reading and schedule a public hearing for January 21st, 2025. Further discussion?
Fontana? Nacarado?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Fratelli?
Yes.
Pappenfort?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Great. And then next up is ordinance 2025-02, an emergency ordinance imposing a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for the establishment of a business that cultivates, processes, or dispenses natural medicine, and the establishment of any business, occupation, or operation for healing centers in the city of Salida, Colorado. This is an emergency ordinance, final reading, and public hearing. So I will go ahead and open up. Oh, go ahead. Do I have to open up the public hearing?
Oh, yes, you do.
It is a public hearing,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing and turn it over to staff. And I believe that will be the gentleman on the screen.
That's correct. You can see it's Nina Williams as indicated on your council action form. Happy New Year, Mayor and members of council. This is a emergency moratorium ordinance for 6 months, precipitated by the Natural Medicine Health Act of 2022, adopted by voters in that year. The state law does not allow us to prohibit or excessively license these natural medicine facilities. So they're not a use we can prohibit, but they're a use we can regulate. Currently, our code doesn't have any regulations for this sort of use. The purpose of the moratorium is to give the city time to develop a legal infrastructure to handle applications for this sort of use. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Jeff, as far as not being able to prohibit, that goes for any community in the state then?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, this is fairly common across Colorado to see municipalities presently adopting these moratoria, just to give them time to get the regulatory structure in place to handle the permitting and regulation and zoning and so on and so forth for this sort of use.
Okay, so we're not the only community that's just kind of doing it this way?
Not by any means.
Okay, thank you.
And with everything being so new, we just want to make sure we're safeguarding the community and getting everything in the order it needs to be. So this isn't a never, let's just take our time with it.
Make sure it's not super close to schools and such.
Yeah.
Sort of things cities are starting to address in their ordinances, proximity to other kinds of uses. So during the course of this moratorium, we'll have an opportunity to see how other jurisdictions are dealing with this and bring to you various approaches for you to consider.
Great.
I guess one more question about the 6 months is that, is there a time limit that we can place this, or is that we're just going for 6 months to see what?
The law on moratoria is that they cannot be excessively long. They can't be a prohibition in sheep's clothing. It has to be a reasonable amount of time to accomplish the intended purpose, and 6 months is understood as reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's not reasonable, we're going to be in trouble along with a whole bunch of other municipalities.
Okay, got it.
And, I think back 10 or so years ago when the dispensaries came along and time was taken. I'm not sure if they did an emergency ordinance or not, but they're all out on Highway 50. They're not downtown. So just being kind of thoughtful around how it works and would impact the community.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That's right.
Anyone that's online that wants to weigh in on this, or? No, okay.
Doesn't look like it.
I can't see you, so I'm just trying to make sure that you're heard if you want to speak.
So this just applies to new applicants that are looking to start up a business in the city of Salida. It doesn't affect anything going on with the existing businesses that are already here, right?
That's right. With the turn of the year, with the turn of the year, these applications could start coming in. So that's the reason for the necessity of this moratorium. But no, it doesn't affect any existing businesses.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. That wouldn't affect any existing businesses in town, just new applicants, right?
I don't believe
Thank you.
we have any existing ones, Councilmember Stevens.
No, not at this point, because of the law took, I mean, it was voted in last November. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is this just for the
No,
growing
this
facilities?
is for natural
not the
medicine. So back in
Psilocybin.
23, they passed a bill at the state level, which allowed for these natural healing centers. And initially, I believe it was with psilocybin, and it's going to be expanded over time.
Yeah, correct. And the moratorium applies to the full suite, the full range of possibilities of use under this law. So commercial and I believe residential as well.
Does that answer your questions, Councilmember Stevens?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anything else? And if not, I'll gladly entertain a motion.
We do have
no,
a public.
Public hearing, that's right. I brought it up and then I forgot about it. My apology. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Mr. Bergen, Merrill Bergen.
Okay. Can you hear us?
You've unmuted me, thank you. I just wanted to note a point of order. It appears that during the last several roll call votes, we've not heard Councilperson Fontana's vote. We've lost her audio. I want to make sure we hear her vote and also her during comments. It may just be me, but I've not heard her in the last several votes.
No, it's not just you.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Do we have anyone else online or that signed up for comment?
No one with their hand raised.
All right, so no need for rebuttal. I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing. That'll bring us to council discussion.
Yeah, let's just pay close attention to what other communities are doing. It should be interesting. I think, Amsterdam tried this out. I can't think of any other case study.
How did it go?
Didn't go great. Somebody thought they were a bird and jumped out of a building. Luckily, we don't have too many high buildings here, so that's good.
And I will say, I mean, they have done a lot of work. They've opened a center to study this at Johns Hopkins as well as at other places, and have seen some pretty remarkable results. I mean, the key is obviously making sure it's the right people, the right setting.
The right dosage.
All of the above.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes sense to take our time and be really thoughtful with this.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt emergency ordinance number 2025-02, an emergency ordinance imposing a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for the establishment of a business that cultivates, processes, or dispenses natural medicine, and the establishment of any business, occupation, or operation for healing centers in the city of Salida, Colorado.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Curtelli, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to move to adopt emergency ordinance number 2025-02, an emergency ordinance imposing a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for the establishment of a business that cultivates, processes, or dispenses natural medicine, and the establishment of any business, occupation, or operation for healing centers in the city of Salida, Colorado. Further discussion?
Nacarado?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Peppenfort,
Yes.
Fontana, I don't
She's
know.
still online.
She is.
I did hear from someone who texted me during the meeting, and I was going to bring it up next, that they were having troubles listening online. They said it was intermittent, it was cutting in and out.
Oh,
Maybe she could type her vote in the chat and you could call it out?
okay. Martin,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. And that'll bring us to council reports. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and not start with Councilmember Fontana tonight. We'll go ahead with Councilmember Peppenfort.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilmember Stevens.
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Curtelli.
Just to address earlier comment about naming something after Kevin Nelson, I'm totally for that.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, just the best guy, best, asset to the city for, geez, almost 40 years.
And multiple generations.
Yeah, yeah. And personally, for me, best neighbor I'll ever have. So whatever that is, I'm totally for honoring him in that way.
I would completely support that.
But other than that, that's all.
Yeah, I support that completely.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Councilmember Fontana.
She has no report tonight.
Okay, no report, great. Councilmember Martin.
I wanted to give a shout out to Bill for our New Year's Eve heart drop that we had. I was an early bird and only went to the 9 p.m. one, but I'm sure the midnight one was even better. And seeing pictures, it was a pretty huge crowd there. It's just, I've talked to a lot of my friends about it, and it's just really exciting to have something here for New Year's Eve. And some of my friends who grew up here made a comment about how there was nothing to do when you were, middle school, beginning of high school, where, you don't really necessarily have a car, but you still want to meet up with your friends, and it's winter break, so you haven't seen them for a week or two because there's no school. So that was really fun, and thank you so much for working so hard on that, Bill. I also wanted to say happily that we have a stop sign coming in to Ward 3. It'll be on 3rd and D, right in front of the post office. I know Councilmember Peppenfort and I have met with several constituents about the issue. We have reached out to City Administrator Christy June and Chief Johnson, and they did everything they could to make it happen, and it did. And I just want to remind everyone that although it does feel really important to maybe have a stop sign right in front of your own house or on the intersection that you live by, a huge reason that we are doing this one is because it is right by the post office, and there is a lot of pedestrian traffic there.
And wrecks.
And yes, and a lot of car accidents that happen as well. And then my last thing, I wanted to discuss the shade sales that we talked about a little bit last night during our work session. I kind of had a knee-jerk reaction about hearing the cost of it and was just like, nope, we should not do that, absolutely not. I think before I'd want to, because I do appreciate the time and effort that the city staff has put into it and wanting to beautify our downtown even more. But if we maybe had an understanding of what that return of investment would look like for us, do we think that would impact our sales tax? I just think that would help me make a more, just like a better decision about it and more educated about it. But yeah, that is all I have.
Thank you, appreciate it. Councilmember Nacarado.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Great, and I just had a couple of things tonight. First off, I want to wish everybody Happy New Year. I want to echo what Councilmember Martin said about the heart drop and really appreciate the initiative of staff, particularly Bill, in terms of bringing this. I think that's a potential to be a great community tradition, and I think that's really, really important. I also want to thank this council and staff. I mean, a lot of us got seated in the past year, and I just want to thank you for all the hard work, hard decisions, and challenging times that sometimes we face up here. So really appreciate all of your support. I wanted to mention that at the fire camp tomorrow, is it at noon tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, great. There is out off the County Road 240. I will be there.
Almond Shy.
Okay, wonderful. So if anyone can be there, great, but we will be represented, so I will be there. And then finally, I mentioned getting feedback that it was really hard to hear the online call tonight, and I know we've been having some issues, whether it be a council member attending virtually or the public. I am not a tech person, but anything we can do to make, because obviously we want people dialing in and we don't want them getting frustrated. So whatever we can do to address this issue, you have my full support. And then that's all that I have. Anything from our treasurer? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know that we are looking into switching the platform from GoToWebinar to Zoom. We're going to start this Thursday. I requested a demo today, so we are looking into that, and hopefully that will fix some of the problems we're having.
I love an anticipatory staff. Thank you.
It started from Christie.
Switch that's causing the buzzing this evening.
We
Okay.
located the switch.
Okay, great, thanks.
Amongst a plethora of switches, I'm sure. Under the ColecoVision.
Do you have anything from the treasurer tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to take a moment to thank the council representatives who have served on the Finance Committee during my first term as the committee chair. Their assistance is much appreciated. Also, I'd like to thank the Finance Department and city staff who've worked hard to provide information to the Finance Committee over the last year. Although the learning curve has been steep, the committee has covered a lot of ground in the last year. And that's the end of my comments.
Great, thank you. Do we have anything from Jeff this evening?
Mayor, thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. And I just wanted to add, following on public comment, for many years when I was working at the league, I had the honor to serve with Ed Tauber, who was on the CML executive board. And he was a real special guy. And I've always thought it was quite fitting that the municipal building in Salida was named after Ed Tauber. So I just wanted to add that. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Merry
Appreciate
holiday.
that historical perspective. Any department updates?
I just want to make sure everybody's safe getting home tonight. It's slippery out there. It's going to be cold. Dan, I'm glad you're wearing your big sweater. You stay
You
warm
had to put
tonight.
that. Well played. Very good. All that remains is a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night and be safe out there. Felt like the sergeant from Hill Street Blues when I said that.
I realized I hadn't made a comment yet. I had to get it in before the meeting was over.
You were cool as a cucumber. Okay, but it's